Yep, that is another thing. She did have like a little, like, I think it was a painting because she's a very artistic person looking at the picture. And it said Black Lives Matter on it. And unfortunately, the same side that she supported did not support her.
Rest in peace to Irina Zalutska. And this is what the fuck I was talking about when I made a video about a week ago saying that black people can be racist to white people too. Because if this is not an act of racism, then I don't know what the fuck is. On that video, 99% of the comments are white people saying,
not only did no one help Irina Zalutska once her murderer stood up and left. And mind you, she looks at the lady right across from her. She has this horrified look on her face. And even when she starts losing consciousness and falls to the dirty subway floor, not one person runs up to her.
A right to violence. All oppressed people have a right to violence. And I'm going to tell you something. It's like the right to pee. You got to have the right place. You got to have the right time. You got to have the appropriate situation. And I'm absolutely convinced that this is it.
Today, we need to talk about a story that should have shaken, everyone, but instead it was met with silence. I want us to talk about Irina Zalutska, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee. She escaped bombs and war in Ukraine, hoping for, safety in America. But on a Charlotte Light rail train in August, she was stabbed to death in cold blood by a man named Carlos Brown, a repeated offender with 14 prior arrests. Irina's final moments were filled with, horror and silence. She cried, she bled, she collapsed, and yet passengers on that train watched without stepping in. Nobody helped her until it was too late. But what makes this even more disturbing is the reaction, or should I say the lack of reaction. Where was the outrage? Or where is the outrage? Where were the voices demanding justice?
I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it and heard it for myself. This was a Black Lives Matter response to the murder of Irina Zalutska in Charlotte, North Carolina on that light rail train.
While he was walking back from stabbing her, he was saying repeatedly, "I got that white girl." He was arrested on the platform. To my understanding, he's been charged with first-degree murder, but he has been released in order to undergo a mental health screening. The mayor of Charlotte had called for us to show compassion to the killer. Compassion. She did express sympathy, kind of. She also announced that she will be running again as mayor. Local outlets like Charlotte Observer did cover the story, but some major national outlets did barely touch it. Right? I don't think I've seen a CNN press release, although at the time of the release of this video there might be one because of the national outrage that has been sparked. Irina was a Black Lives Matter activist. She had a poster on her wall in one of her stories. As far as if she's gone to protest, I'm not entirely sure. I think that this should piss you off, whether you're a man, this could be your mother, your girlfriend, your sister. If you're a woman, this could be you, So these kind of things need to be covered more. You have to ask yourself, why was this not covered as much as it was for other certain crimes,
Not only did no one help Irina Zalutska once her murderer stood up and left. And mind you, she looks at the lady right across from her. She has this horrified look on her face. And even when she starts losing consciousness and falls to the dirty subway floor, not one person runs up to her. Not one person. This has broken my heart, infuriated me. I've lost all faith in humanity. Watching this video and seeing not one person just reach out to help, I really cannot understand. They all watched and not one person went to help, or at least if they were afraid to help, maybe go tell someone. It's just so heartbreaking. Look how horrified she looked. She was obviously in shock because it happened so quick and no one would expect to go home on a subway and lose their life so brutally. Crying alone in silence, this just breaks my heart. She doesn't want to disturb the people around her, the people that literally walk by as she is dying. And the only time people go up to help her is when her literal BLOOD is completely seeped onto the subway floor. At that point, she's gone. Yes, I know her injuries were fatal, but at least someone could have held her hand and consoled her while she was dying alone. She died alone with people around her.
I'm going to call out my people. When a black person is unalived unjustly, the streets fill up with protesters. We hear chants, we see signs, and we watch as hashtags trend for weeks. That's what happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many others. And whether you agree with me, every part of those movements or not, the point is the outrage was loud. It was visible. It was, relentless. But here, when Arena, a white refugee, was unalived on a train, the silence was deafening. No marches, no trending hashtags, no widespread solidarity. The same voices that demand justice when it happens to one of their own are suddenly quiet. And that's a problem, because justice should not only matter when the victim looks like you. Those screenshots say it all. People are pointing out the silence, the bystander effect, and the hypocrisy. And they are right. If we are serious about equality, then every injustice should spark outrage, no matter how the victim is. The reason I'm calling out my people, maybe you're going to ask, and why can't you call out, others? The reason I'm calling out my people is there's a saying that you should clean your own house first before you go to someone else's. You get? I'm calling out my people because we are the first who normally come out calling for justice whenever something wrong happens to us. Arena's story is not just a tragedy. It's a mirror reflecting deep cracks in our society, in our justice system, our politics, our media, and even in the way we choose when to care. Let's start with the crime itself. Arena was brutally stabbed 3 times, including once in the neck. She fell to the dirty floor of that train while passengers stood by. Think about that. A young woman bleeding to death in front of people, and nobody moved until it was too late. That's not just bystander apathy. That's a complete collapse of human compassion. Then the attacker, Carlos Brown, a man with 14 arrests since 2021. 14. The justice system had every chance to stop him, but time and time again, he was released. Even after being, charged with first-degree murder, he was let out for a mental health screening. If he needed mental health care, why wasn't that, provided long before he escalated to murder? That's not compassion. That's negligence. And then comes the, political response. The mayor of Charlotte asked for, compassion for the killer. Let that sink in. Compassion for the killer. While Arena's family mourns their daughter, who fled bombs for safety, only to die in silence on a US train. That kind of response doesn't just feel tone deaf. It feels like a betrayal. But the silence that stings the most, the silence of the public and the media. Local outlets covered it, yes, but nationally, barely a whisper. No non-stop coverage, no endless commentary, and certainly no movement in the streets. If Arena had been black, would this have been different? Judging by past events, the answer is yes. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Outrage in America has become selective. When a crime fits the narrative that certain groups or media want to amplify, it becomes a national crisis. But when it doesn't fit, when the victim doesn't match the preferred storyline, it gets brushed aside. Selective outrage isn't justice, it's agenda. And agenda-driven justice is not justice at all, because justice, by definition, should be blind to color, blind to justice, blind to politics. So let's ask ourselves, why do we march for one victim but excuse or ignore others? And why are we letting the media decide which victims deserve our tears and which doesn't? Arena deserved more. She deserved outrage. She deserved solidarity. She deserved the same energy that fills the streets with others, when others are killed unjustly. But instead, she was met with silence. And maybe that's the most heartbreaking part. She survived war. She survived bomb shelters. She went to US chasing hope. Yet in that very moment, she needed humanity the most. She was abandoned by bystanders on that train, by a justice system that failed her, by leaders who misplaced their priorities, and by a public that picked and chose which tragedies to care more. This is not just about her killer. This is about us. Because the question is, are we truly committed to justice for all, or just justice when it's convenient? If we only cry out when it's our own, then what we are doing isn't fighting injustice. It's protecting our tribe. And that's not equality. That's hypocrisy. Arena's name should be remembered. Her story should be told. And her death should remind us that injustice anywhere should, matter everywhere. If we really believe in justice, then it has to apply to everyone, not just when the cameras are rolling, not just when it fits the narrative, not just when the victim looks like us. Everyone, everyone, always. Because if we don't start demanding justice for all, then we are not solving injustice. We are simply replacing one form of silence with another. Arena Zalutska deserve better, and the least we can do now is make sure her story is not forgotten. Guys, drop a comment. Let me know what are your thoughts. Also remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.